vacation in Hawaii to fly here into Kelantan, one of the nation's most flood-ravaged states. Here, Mr. Najib visited some of the tens of thousands of evacuees seeking shelter in relief centres near the capital city, Kota Bharu. The Prime Minister also met with the National Security Council, ordering relevant agencies to deliver aid without delay. He set aside an additional 500 million ringgit to help them with flood relief efforts. But Mr. Najib stopped short of declaring a state of emergency.
Dia ada banyak implikasi. Pertamanya, kalau kita declare darurat, pihak insurans, syarikat insurans terlepas daripada membayar ganti rugi, dan ganti rugi disebabkan kerosakan harta benda dan kenderaan adalah tinggi. Kedua, kita bergerak seolah-olah dalam keadaan emergency sekarang ni.
The floods have now begun to engulf at least 8 states across Malaysia, displacing more than 100,000 people. In Kelantan, a special holiday has been declared as the state struggles to cope with the floods, while New Year celebrations have been cancelled in various other states across the nation. Simisha Naidu, Channel News Asia, Kota Bharu.
Mr. Najib visited Kelantan, the worst-hit state, on Saturday, and more than 80,000 people there have taken refuge from the rising water. The flood situation also continues to deteriorate in Perak, and authorities are now scrambling to deliver food and aid to victims by aircraft and boats as roads are completely submerged. In Terengganu, all families affected by the floods will receive a one-off payment of 1,000 ringgit, or about $290 in compassionate aid. The state's chief minister said half the amount was contributed by the state government, while the remainder comes from the federal government. And after Kelantan, Terengganu is the next worst affected flood-hit state. In the state of Pahang, the number of evacuees continues to rise as another district was flooded. And Malaysian Prime Minister Najib also sought to appease Malaysians over recent criticism that he was holidaying while the country was in distress. He said his golf game with U.S. President Barack Obama in Hawaii recently did not mean he deliberately ignored the flood situation at home. On the contrary, Mr. Najib said it had been planned much earlier on the principle of establishing diplomatic ties for Malaysia's benefit. In addition, he said that the invitation had been extended during Mr. Obama's visit to the country in April. It was thus difficult to decline, as it was planned much earlier in the schedule of both leaders. Channel News Asia's Melissa Go looks at what Malaysia's leaders are doing to help.
Here at Prime Minister Najib's ruling party UMNO headquarters, donations are starting to trickle in after a nationwide campaign dubbed the Love Mission, or Misi Sayang, was launched on Christmas Day by Women's Chief Sharizat Abdul Jalil.
We accept everything and anything, including cash. At first, we did not want to include cash, but some people said, can we give you cash? So we have opened an account and you can come and we'll forward to the military.
Meanwhile, the UMNO headquarters has turned into a temporary collection centres for donations are starting to coming in. Now, according to volunteers, blankets, clothing, food and drinking water are some of the essentials in dire need. Now, they will be given to the military, who will then distribute them to the flood-hit victims. Over 100,000 are currently seeking shelter at evacuation centres across peninsular Malaysia, hard hit by one of its worst floods in decades. Many who were stranded by rising flood waters expressed their frustration on social media, complaining about the lack of help from the federal government.
It's not fair, by saying that a lot of our ministers are away, because anyway, this season where a lot of us normally go on our leave, but unfortunately, we didn't anticipate that the flood is worse than many years ago. It is not our doing, It is because of the weather.
The UMNO Women's Chief has attempted to dismiss the deluge of criticism against Mr. Najib's government, claiming that the opposition is simply leveraging political capital from the devastating floods.
It is terrible the way people are politicizing, the floods. My question would be, what is the opposition doing in their opposition states? We don't see them there. Actually, if we didn't have a heart, we will not be doing all of this for the people in the opposition state.
But with the flood situation looking set to worsen, more states across the peninsula have been affected, including Prime Minister Najib's home state of Pahang and the southern state of Johor, with the west central states of Selangor and Negeri Sembilan being put on high alert. Months ago, Channel News Asia, Kuala Lumpur.
And it's not just people affected, of course. Malaysia's The Star Online says many animal lovers have formed groups to help save animals stranded in the floods. Some of these animals are strays and others are pets left behind by their owners when they evacuated their homes. The Save East Coast group, which was set up during last year's flood, has also been revived. And the group says it is continuously sending boxes filled with supplies and basic necessities to the flood victims. Now, across the border, residents in the southern Thai provinces are bracing for flash floods as the rains show no sign of letting up. In Yala, local authorities are preparing for rising water levels by reinforcing defenses. Houses, banks, shops and schools have sandbanks in front and around the buildings to keep the water at bay. Several banks and shops are shut, and in some areas in Patani, the water is 2 meters deep. The flood have claimed the lives of at least 13 people.